This is John Brixon with Old Capital, and today I have with me Matt Wasco with Rowan Multifamily Advisors. Matt, how are you doing?
Good, John. Thanks for having me on. How are you?
Doing well. Thanks for coming on. So Matt is here to talk about Agave at Willow Creek, which is a 130 unit property in Irving, Texas. Matt is the listing broker on this transaction, and he is the best point of contact at Rowan Multifamily Advisors for anyone who's interested in learning more about this deal. So we're going to give a quick overview of this property today and talk a little bit about Agave at Willow Creek. Agenda for today is first we'll have a speaker introduction. Matt can talk a little bit about his team and give some background on Rowan Multifamily Advisors. Then we'll cover the location and market overview, give some details on the property, talk about where there's some upside and what the value add is on this property, go into some of the rent comps, run through the pro forma cash flows here, or look at the pro forma and how we underwrite this as lenders. And then at the end here, we can talk about the loan terms that are available for this property and the financing. So just to kick it off here, Matt, maybe give us some background on yourself and then also on Rowan Multifamily.
Yeah, so Matt Wasco, Rowan Multifamily Advisors. I have been here for 8 years now as a broker. Our company was founded 10 years ago. Been very active in the B and C class multifamily space since then. Right now, we're on pace to have a record year. We either closed, in contract, or on the market. We've got a little over 3,200 units done this year. So we're pretty proud of that. And, you know, we've got our sights set high to keep going. Market's certainly ripe for that. Born here locally, DFW kid, grew up in Richardson. I've got 4 kids of my own now. So in between changing diapers and youth sports, I'm selling apartments. So
Well, that's great. Well, congratulations. You guys are having a great year. And, Matt's team is very active in B and C multifamily in the DFW market, and certainly recommend anyone who's interested in getting more active in DFW, reach out to Matt and the rest of the Rowan team. So Matt, maybe we can start here just talking about the location of Agave at Willow Creek, and this here in South Irving.
Yeah, so this Agave Willow Creek is in Irving, Texas. Irving is an inner ring suburb of Dallas. Many of you are likely familiar with it. It's the 6th largest city in DFW. Really located, well located on the west side of DFW, about equidistant between DFW Airport and Love Field. 183 is kind of a divider line from what's called North Irving and South Irving. We are just south of 183 on Beltline Road. You can see the interstate, see the mall from there. I think on some of the aerials in the coming slides, you can get a good feel of where the property's located.
Yeah, 183 is, that's kind of your east-west road, and that gets you pretty quick access over to Dallas or over to Fort Worth. And then what's also nice here is you're located right off of 161, which is George Bush, and George Bush will get you up to the north side of the Metroplex and take you up to Farmers Branch, Carrollton, Plano, Frisco, all those areas. So, Irving has been one of the better performing submarkets in DFW over the last 10 years, and we've seen a ton of rent growth in this market, and largely because the accessibility is terrific, and there's a ton of jobs within a 5-minute radius of here. With DFW International Airport, one of the world's largest airports, right next to this property, and then the industrial submarket and warehouse space around Irving and around DFW is also one of the most highly sought after industrial submarkets for a lot of the warehouse developers.
Yeah, it's centrally located for just about any sort of profession. It's a strong workforce housing submarket, a lot of renters. Occupancy historically and rent growth are always leading DFW submarkets here in Irving. And I think it benefits to be right on the interstate. You can see in this aerial, 183 is just a short stone's throw from the back of the property. You're also only 4 miles from Las Colinas, kind of the urban center of Irving, where there's numerous companies headquartered there. You've got a Home Depot just to the other side of the property to the northeast in this picture. And then here you can see Beltline Road, very high traffic count, intersects with 183 right there by the Irving Mall. There's also a Target at that intersection, and you're about 5 miles from DFW Airport. This road right here, Willow Creek Drive, that kind of peels off of Beltline, has it's a very busy road. The property across the street doesn't do any marketing and they stay full. I mean, really not a lot of marketing is needed because of the location and the amount of drive-by traffic on a daily basis.
There's some more aerials there.
Yeah, just 10 miles from down.
Well, great. Well, let's talk a little bit about the property and just the physical condition and just some different utilities and whatnot here on this property.
Yeah, Agave at Willow Creek, it's 1967 build, but it's very unique for that age. The property features pitched roofs, which were replaced in 2019, roof-mounted individual HVAC units, of which approximately 50% have been replaced in the last 2-3 years. Also has covered parking, and it's got gated access. So it's got some attributes that you don't often see on 60s properties. That's something I really like about the property. The current owner has put quite a bit of capital into the deal since he bought it a little over 2 years ago. A little over 600 grand. That includes the big ticket items of the roof and the HVAC replacement, as well as some carpentry, paint, light interior renovations, really to bring them up to what a lot of us call today's classic unit. They were in inferior condition before that. You've got washer dryer connections in 4 units of the 3-bedroom floor plan. There is an on-site laundry facility, 4 washers, 4 dryers that are owned by the property. There's no contract on that, so that's a benefit. Let's see, mostly brick and wood siding. Let's see.
And I toured it with Matt yesterday, and I think, one thing that I observed that I think is a positive on the property is that it's an older property, but the deferred maintenance is really pretty limited, at least from what I can tell. The roofs, like Matt was saying, are almost brand new. You have individual HVAC units, which oftentimes you've got a chiller on properties of this age, and this is a HVAC property, which is also nice. The individual HVAC units look to be in pretty good shape. And, for the most part, didn't observe a lot of wood rot issues or foundation issues. So for a 1967 property, it's actually a pretty clean asset. I also liked the security on the property. It's gated access and, pretty well secured. So it's overall, I thought, pretty clean property given its age.
Yeah, exterior wise, very clean deal. I think a new buyer's budget will predominantly be focused on interior upgrades. If you're looking for where you're going to spend rehab dollars, maybe some slight improvements on the outside, parking lot, et cetera. Does have a standalone leasing office, which is sometimes unique for this vintage. A lot of times it's in a unit. So this is a standalone building, central location in the middle of the property near a playground. Just very clean outside deal. Bones are good. Boiler, we don't know the exact age, but it was replaced within the last 10 years. It's annually serviced and inspected and in good working order.
Let's talk a little bit about the unit mix here.
Yeah, so Agave, average unit size, 737. So average, not too large, not too small. You've got a lot of 1-bedrooms here, which is attractive for this submarket. You've got a lot of tenants looking for 1-bedrooms. The rents here, we've got 3 columns. We've got their average leased rent, which comes out to an average of $836. Their current market rents that they're quoting new tenants walking in the door averages $938. And then the submarket supports, average rents up to $1039 for similar product. So we'll kind of dive into more of the operation side that's limited their current rents, but that's something to take into consideration. Good, healthy unit mix, mostly 1s, but that's, high demand for that in the submarket.
So let's talk about the value add plan and where is there some upside here?
Yeah, so on the left here, you see a typical interior finish out at Agave. Nearly all of the units appear in this condition where you've got white appliances, resurfaced countertops, two-tone paint, faux wood flooring. They've got two different color variations, and a few units do have ceramic tile. And you've got new brushed nickel light fixtures and cabinet pulls. Other than that, I mean, you've got carpet in the bedrooms. I would consider that a classic unit. There on the left, that is at Agave. And to the right, you've got one of the more high-end upgraded units in the submarket. This is at a property called the Landon, just about a mile and a half away. This particular unit-to-unit comparison, that's leasing for about $265 over the Agave unit of similar square footage. You can see there they've done the hard surface countertops, the gooseneck sink, they've done backsplash and black appliances. There's also just some apples to apples comps nearby. We'll talk about it more on the rent comp page, but a deal that was recently marketed at Emerald Point has almost identical interior finish outs, and they're going in rents are about 100 over Agave right now on smaller units. So walking in day one, there's rent growth without doing anything. And then there's proven upside to do a more high-end finish out. So I think there's a lot of room on the rents here. There's also a lot of upside on the operations. So property's currently 89% occupied. They actually have signed a couple of leases recently, so they were soon to be 91%, which is still below market for the submarket. Across the street, there is a 228 unit property that is owner managed, doesn't do any marketing, that is 100% full, not one vacant unit. And they pretty much stayed that way throughout COVID. So the operations have been a challenge at Agave since the beginning of COVID. When the current owner took over a little over 2 years ago, they had a strong manager. Month over month, income was growing, delinquency was very low. They were pushing rents, they were doing the roof. When COVID happened, that manager left the property and took some time away. The current management company has had trouble finding a good, reliable person to put in the office. The pandemic certainly didn't help. A lot of management companies closed down on-site offices. So that's attributed to kind of growing delinquency at the property. It's been a challenge, but I think the big picture is that it's not indicative of the submarket or what the property can do. It was performing better with the previous manager. So someone that brings in, a good team. I think you just need one person in the office, one maintenance, and one make-ready guy to staff this property. Could really do a good job. It's been proven by both this owner before COVID and the previous owner as well. And then also, as you mentioned earlier, John, the submarket rent growth has been some of the strongest in all of DFW. I think the 3-year average previously was 5%. We've heard some higher estimates moving forward, but you love to see that where you go in and you've got a lot of meat on the bone, just bringing the rents up to where the market currently is, and to know that that market rent in the area is going to be growing by pretty good percentage moving forward. Lets you know there's a lot of runway on the rents here.
Yeah, and I would say, on the operational side of it, I would agree with you that, this is not indicative of the submarket. Occupancy is 89%, but there's also, a lot of delinquency, and there's a good amount of people that are not paying. And I think it really was kind of the perfect storm here, where they had a manager leave right when COVID started and just had some trouble finding better on-site staff. And so I think with kind of more hands-on management and someone who's willing to roll up their sleeves and get the screen the tenants that are coming in, much better manage delinquency. I think there is some good upside here, and certainly you're in a great location here in Irving, where there has been and expected to continue to be strong rent growth.
Yeah, agreed.
So maybe talk about the rent comps. Let's dive into this.
Yeah, these are some of our focus comps. You see, these are all within about a 1 mile radius here in Irving. All but one are south of 183. So a lot of people say 183 is kind of a divider North, South Irving, people prefer north. Well, 2 through 5 of these comps are south of 183. I would argue that Agave is in a little bit better location here. You're closer to 183. You're right off Beltline, closer to all of the shopping and dining destinations nearby, and all similar, with the exception of Rolling Hills, that is a little bit newer, but has smaller units. So, this I think shows on average the comps are at 1,063 per unit. That's $1.40 a square foot. Current average leased is $836 at Agave and $1.25 a foot. So you've got quite a bit of runway to just come up to market. All of these properties, even if, Rolling Hills is a little newer, they're still all very comparable, and the locations are very comparable. So it's proven, and occupancy is also very strong in all of these deals.
Yeah, and here's a map of the rent comps, which as Matt had mentioned, most of these are in the South Irving area, with just one of these over in North Irving. So all very comparable locations. So just talking about the pro forma here, Matt, if you want to just kind of walk us through how you guys are looking at this, and where you think which expense items or which income items there is some upside.
Yeah, so as you notice, kind of starting, we'll go from right to left here. So we're just using the T12 actuals. This is, we actually have updated numbers since then, the T12 income through April. Delinquency is high right now. Not having someone on site really made it a challenge with collections throughout COVID. What they've been able to do recently, which will soon be reflected on their statements, is they've got the regional involved and getting a lot of the tenants that had back due amounts get signed up for the Texas Rent Relief Program. So they anticipate about $95,000 in collections to kind of really bring down that bad debt number over the coming weeks and month. So that should help. Going in though, because the property is only 89% occupied, and with the vacancy and delinquency, about 80% economic occupancy, the numbers are a bit of a stretch. However, it's not stabilized. So what we've done here is just shown the scenario where if you were to keep all of the rents the same they are today, what their current average lease rents are, no growth at all, just stabilize that delinquency and the vacancy, filled it up to what the submarket's doing, you've got, almost $200,000 to grow the NOI there. That's leaving expenses, where they are, a pretty average number, $6,400 per unit. Our year one pro forma is bringing them up to where some of the comps in the area that have the same interior finish out are at. So approximately $100 rent bump across the board. Also stabilizing that economic occupancy. And what we've done on the expense side, right here, we've left the expenses the same. So we've got kind of further growth by about $150,000 on the NOI. That's after year one stabilization. And then year two, we've got all of the rents going up to where the high end comps in the submarket are at. So approximately a $200 rent bump across the board. And on the expense side of things, we made a couple of adjustments on payroll. We reduced that down to $1,100 per unit to account for one manager, one lead maintenance, and one make-ready guy. They've been spending a little bit more than typical for temporary staff members over the past few months, kind of part of the operational challenges that they've had. We've also reduced the utility number as no water conservation has been done at the property. So we've got an estimate from SAS with total spending of about $45,000 to equate to about $27,000 in annual savings on the water bill. So I think you can see there, I mean, there's pretty significant growth potential on the NOI. This deal is really a attractive basis for good quality product and a good location in Irving. You've got to be forward looking at what the property can do. COVID's behind us, and we think this property, along with the market, is going to rise really fast.
So talking about the financing here, as Matt has mentioned, with the higher economic vacancy and the current in-place operations, it's really not a fit for a Fannie Mae or Freddie Mac loan. Your best option here is really going to be a bridge loan. And so I guess before I talk about the bridge loan terms that are available in the market, Matt, maybe a drum roll, please. Let's talk about the whisper price.
Oh yeah. So the magic number. So we are whispering around 13,750,000, which comes out to a little over 105,000 per unit.
Okay. And what we're seeing in the current bridge loan market for properties like this, and properties that are pre 1970s construction, and over $10 million in loan proceeds, it's anywhere from 75 to 80% of the purchase price plus 100% of budgeted capex, and we're seeing interest rates in that 3.75 to 4% range. And with bridge loans, what we're often looking at is, they're really forward looking. So the bridge lender, they'll go up to, call it 80% of purchase price plus 100% of capex. So on this property, we're assuming the purchase price of the whisper, 13,750,000. On capex, we're assuming 650,000, which I believe is about $5,000 per unit. And so bridge lenders, they'll go to 80% of purchase plus 100% of capex. But what they really focus on is not as much the in-place operations. It's more so the stabilized or the pro forma operations, and what the property will look like, once the business plan is executed, once the borrower has invested all the capex back into the property and had a chance to go in and increase the NOI. So the bridge lender, they'll go to 80%, but they want to be closer to 75 or 70. Sorry, I'm having issues with my mouse here. They want to be closer to 75%, or even better would be below 70% of stabilized loan to value. So on this property, we're looking at, we're at a 69% stabilized LTV, and that's really just taking the Rowan's year 2 pro forma and then capping that year 2 pro forma NOI of 927,000 at a 5.5% cap rate. So it does seem to underwrite well for a bridge loan. All right, so let's wrap it up here with, if you have any questions, Q&A for Matt, here's his contact information. Matt, when is the call for offers?
Yeah, so we've not officially set the call for offers date yet. It's likely going to be the first or second week of June. It's kind of what we're thinking. We'd love to get anyone and everyone out there for a property tour. It really helps to see this deal in person, see the quality of the construction, and to understand the upside. So we're actively doing tours. You can reach me at my email address listed below, or my cell phone listed below as well. And we'd love to discuss and get to know some new investors out there.
Perfect. All right, Matt, thanks for coming on today, and look forward to seeing how this one shakes out.
Yeah, thanks, John. Appreciate it.
All right, thank you. All right. So let's see, I'll stop recording.